The Fantasy Football Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is presented by WynnBET. If you bet $100 at WynnBET, you can get a $100 free bet. To do so, just head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET to claim your free bet today. And welcome into the Fantasy Football Podcast presented by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I am your host, Justin Bruni. Joining me today is Dylan from the Fans of the West podcast. How are we doing, sir? Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. And I just have to mention, what's it feel like to be that close of friends with Mr. Seinfeld that you get to record your podcast from his apartment?
Yeah, it's more of a studio thing, like you meet up in Tom's restaurant, just kind of hanging out, shooting the breeze. You get invited upstairs to hang out. It's kind of similar to Friends, you go and hang out in the coffee shop. You just kind of mingle around a little bit, Central Perk. Eventually, you get invited up to the friends pad. Same thing goes with How I Met Your Mother. Just hang out in the bar downstairs, shoot the breeze a little bit, get invited upstairs, and before you know it, you're in a cool spot like this.
And here we are, fantastic.
How are we doing?
It's all about the people I'm fine. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I'm doing great, man. We got an exciting Week 6 preview going here. We're rolling right through the stream of the season, ready to roll. What are you guys working on over there at Fans of the West? What can you share with folks, and where can they find you?
You can find anything Fans of the West related if you just type in Fans of the West when you're looking up any podcasts. But for social media-wise, our handle's at Durf and Dylan. It's more of a Durf and Dylan production, Fans of the West. We got some more stuff that we're planning to do once we get through the football season. But for now, We have Fans of the West, a Seattle Seahawks and Buffalo Bills centered podcast.
Right on. Well, we're going to be talking some Seattle Seahawks right out of the gate here. We're going to jump in right into our starter sit conversation. First up, kind of a polarizing pick here. Geno Smith riding the hot hand, or are you going with Aaron Rodgers, nice, slow and steady, trustworthy quarterback? Which way are you going?
I feel like it feels weird for everyone because there's still leagues, including one of the leagues I'm in, where Geno Smith is still like, you can still pick him up off the waiver wire.
Shame.
It's crazy. I know people are thinking like, oh, I have my starters still. We're doing okay. We're like, that's what kind of where I'm at. I have Lamar Jackson in one and Jalen Hurts in the other. I'm feeling pretty good about those two. But like the fact that Geno's still there is crazy. The man has been putting up incredible numbers almost against anyone. The only team he didn't do it was the 49ers. The 49ers have probably one of the best defenses in the league. They're back to that status where they have one of the best defenses. He struggled, and that's it's okay. The Cardinals do not have a defense of that caliber. Even the Saints have a top 10 defense, and he still tore them apart. He should be just fine against Arizona. Aaron Rodgers, it's been kind of up and down. He's put up some steady numbers, like you said, but I think Geno is still going to outplay him. And the Jets, man, they have DJ Reed on one side, former Seahawk. The Seahawks are so stupid for letting him go because he is looking great this year. And we have, one outside corner, at least it's not doing that solid. And then they have the Sauce Gardner, obviously. They're not shutting people down, but they're doing great out there. I mean, last week? I don't even remember who they played last week. 40-17, they shut someone down. They just blew them out of the water. The Jets are not the Jets of old. In Miami, to be fair, they're playing a third stringer, but I get it. You know what I'm saying? They're putting together something pretty special. It's very early stages of something special, but it's a defense that you have to be looking for. Aaron Rodgers has been struggling. Christian Watson he's questionable. I don't know. He's on my fantasy team, so I keep an eye on him. Randall Cobb just is not the Randall Cobb of old, but his eyes are still just absolutely gorgeous. But it's just the weapons are limited.
Right.
Geno Smith has been tearing people apart, getting the tight ends involved. Tyler Lockett's been amazing. DK Metcalf, if his hands weren't made of bricks, he'd be just even more better than he already is. I'm taking Geno all day.
I know it sounds crazy. I'm doing the same thing. I love the matchup a lot more. Arizona's allowing a ton of points, and Geno, he actually looks better as just a deep ball passer. He's got way less completions than Aaron Rodgers through like the last 3 weeks, but his yardage is much, much higher. So they're getting in situations where the game flow is very positive for fantasy. They're playing from behind, or they're playing in high scoring matchups. And Geno, he just kind of stood in the entire time. I was expecting a very big dip in that Saints game. He shut me out. He crashed a 3-leg interception parlay. I just had him to throw one interception in that game. Could have did anything
interception
else.
Parlay.
Oh yeah,
That's a
yeah.
new one. I like
I,
that.
I had Bailey Zappi, I had Kenny Pickett, and then I had Geno Smith, and of
You should
course,
have thrown Josh Allen in there.
yeah. Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
Because that's what I did. I had like just a single bet for a Josh Allen interception. Because I
nice.
did both sides. I did a Kenny and a Josh. It's like, this seems like one where Josh will just be throwing a crap ton of balls. It just feels like
Right.
one's going to sneak through there, and it did. So I was like, but
There you go. There you go. I
would
missed
have
out on
seen
that
that.
attacking the QB1 in fantasy for an interception. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's not entirely possible, I guess.
Yeah, so you heard it from us first. Geno Smith definitely worthy of a starter spot this week. Just to peep you a little bit, I do have this exact situation in one of my leagues, and I am starting Geno Smith over Aaron Rodgers. So I am putting my my money where my mouth is. All right, next up we've got the running back position. Very hot pick this week: Ramondre Stevenson at Cleveland or Breece Hall at Green Bay. Breece Hall also coming off a very big performance last week. Which direction are you going here?
I like Breece, and it's unfortunate because I just traded him away in fantasy before his big week. Because I'm sitting here thinking, it's just going to be this back and forth with Michael Carter and these other folks in this committee. And I needed a wide receiver because I had people banged up. I needed a wide receiver. So I made the trade, and then he pops off. I was like, of course he would. That makes sense.
Right.
But then obviously Stevenson, Cleveland, his defense is banged up. They have a couple people out this week. That's where I have to lean. It seems like the Patriots found something last week. I know they're playing the Lions. I get it. But they have a little bit of momentum heading into this one. Stevenson has been good since last year when he gets enough touches. Cleveland banged up. I think he can have a big day. Not to say Breece can't as well, but it seems like one of those situations where they're going to take turns. I wouldn't be shocked if Michael Carter just ends up having a huge day, and Breece Hall owners are like, "What? Wait, what just happened? I thought he was the guy." Yeah, well, that's what happens when you're a running back for the Jets, I guess.
Yeah, it was really tough last week because Breece Hall could have had an even much bigger week. He finished with 197 all-purpose yards, one rushing touchdown. He could have had three. They easily could have had three rushing touchdowns. They pulled him at the one twice for Michael Carter. And while I have these guys very close to my rankings, I have Ramondre at number 10 this week and Breece at 14. Just for comparison, Fantasy Pros has Ramondre as number 5.
Whoa.
Number 5 running back this week. It seems a little rich. It seems a little rich.
Seems excessive.
Considering the matchup, like, I guess I get it. Like, I get the correlation. Last week they played the Lions. The Lions have given up the second most, probably the most now, fantasy points to the running back position. Cleveland, they're sitting at 5th most coming into week 6. So it's definitely a good matchup. I don't know what's going on with Dame Harris. They've now given him the questionable tag. Feels like he should be like already on the IR. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe it's not as bad as as they made it seem at the end of the last game. Same thing for Mac Jones. Like, he could barely walk a couple weeks ago. Now they're saying he's questionable. I don't know if Bill is just playing the mind games here or what, but that number 5 seems a little bit high. I have Ramondre at 10. I have Breece Hall at 14. I am still leaning with Ramondre just because of Michael Carter. I don't know who's going to spell Ramondre this week, but I have to imagine from his performance last week, what he was able to, put on the ground, he's going to be the focal point of their offense this week. Expecting a backup quarterback, expecting him not being able to push the ball, Bailey Zappi, that is, being able to push the ball down the field. The corners in the secondary are very good for Cleveland. So I'm imagining a lot of rushing and a lot of dink and dunks off to Ramondre this week. But again, 5th seems just very, very high. All right, how about Michael Pittman or Christian Kirk? They are playing each other, and they have already played each other this season.
Man. You're not these choices suck. If I had either one of these guys so far through, if I had to start one of these guys, at this point in the season, I guess my record is below 500 in fantasy. I unfortunately have to go with Christian Kirk. I feel like I have to. It's this thing with the Colts and the Jags, and I know this one's in Indy, so that changes it up a little bit. It's not like they're in Jacksonville where the Colts haven't won in like 20 years. Right. It still feels like there's this thing where Jacksonville has the Colts number. Ever since the Colts acquired Matt Ryan, I've had zero faith in this offense being able to do a gosh darn thing. Yeah. I do not trust him, which means I cannot trust Pittman. Trevor Lawrence has been pretty good, Christian Kirk has surprised me. I did not think he was wide receiver 1 material. He's put up decent numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the matchup, I'm going to go with Christian Kirk by like a hair.
Literally by a hair. So Fantasy Pros has Pittman at 15 and Kirk at 16. I have it flipped a little bit. I have Pittman at 16 and I have Kirk at 14 this week. The only thing that concerns me is that Indianapolis has allowed the fewest amount of fantasy points to the wide receiver position. However, Kirk has put up the best performance up against them. 2 touchdowns, 6 for 6 in week 2. I think it was for, I don't know, don't quote me on the yards, but I want to say like 70 to 80 yards. I think it was like 79 or something like that. So I am also going Christian Kirk here. And it's also just because I feel like with the Colts offense, yeah, I don't like Matt Ryan. Haven't been a buyer or advocate of him across the last season, into this offseason, into this current season, not on the Matt Ryan train. But I do still like Pittman in the sense that, he's like that number 1 target. But the thing with Matt Ryan, what I was going with this is he just spreads the ball to whoever's open. Like, he's not going to force feed Pittman. And it feels like Kirk is just kind of that piece in the offense where they're going to pull him all around the offensive line. They're going to purposely get him design touches to move the chains. You know what I mean? So I feel like he's got a bigger focal point in his offense where they want to just get him more usage. So for that really is the reason why, because I could still see Pittman, getting a big target share, especially if we saw, Jonathan Taylor being out or being limited in this game. I know that he's coming back. I do still have Jonathan Taylor inside my top 10 today, at least right now, until I get more information. Because if he is healthy, he's going to get a ton of usage. Obviously, him being gone, it plays a huge dividend in the offense about what they can really do. All right, we're going to hit one quick word from our...
a little bit of Mo Alley Cox in their offense,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like it could be Mo Alley Cox. It could be the who is the rookie tight end? Jelani Woods. It could be Alec Pierce. It could be Deion Sanders.
Has been kind of popping off lately.
I was about to say Deion Sanders. It could be Nyheim Hines or what's his name? Deion. Is it Jackson? The ball could go anywhere. That's really the point we're trying to get across here, is that they're really going to spread it around. They're not overly concerned about getting any one player a huge amount of touches, unless his first name is Jonathan and his last name is Taylor. So we're going to hit a quick word from our sponsor, WinBet, and we'll be right back after this. Thinking of joining WinBet? Now is the perfect time, because new customers who bet $100 get a $100 free bet. Plus, the WinBet Casino is always open 24 hours a day, where you can get a 100% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Also, be sure to look out for the WinBet Biggest Winners Club. Whoever hits the biggest parlay on WinBet odds-wise gets a $1,000 free bet. Last week, someone turned $6 into $4,000. Plus, on top of that, they got an extra $1,000 free bet. WinBet is truly for D-Gens only. There's so much to choose from, and all you have to do is head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WinBet, so they know that we sent you. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET to claim your free bet today. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at winbet.com. Must be 21 or older and present in the state where playthrough WinBet is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-522-4700. All right, and we're back with our starter sits. We've now worked our way to the tight end position. Not some sexy names here. We've got Irv Smith Jr. for Minnesota playing in Miami, or Gerald Everett versus Denver at home. Which way you going here?
I know we'll touch on it a little bit later, but the fact that this is not prime time for the Minnesota Vikings, and the Dolphins seem to have lost their touch so far, not only on offense because of the Tua being out, which he might be back actually, but they've also kind of lost their touch on defense. Kirk Cousins loves slinging this ball. Absolutely loves it when it's not prime time. I know it's not going to be every week, and he'll have his falters, but
right.
The fact that Gerald Everett has to go against Denver's defense, which Denver has not looked like a good football team, but they've also looked like a boring football team because their defense is very good, and they make both teams look just god-awful. It's all those games are always grind out, low point fest. So I'm going to go with Irv Smith, probably just because it might be a higher scoring game.
No, I absolutely love it. And I feel like it's a situation where Minnesota might be up big in this game, and you might just see a little bit more favoritism to, the roster cloggers, right? Like maybe some KJ Osborne, maybe some Irv Smith Jr., right? Maybe some Alexander Madison this week. Because, I feel like it's a good spot for Minnesota to put up a lot of points. You might see Justin Jefferson have a pretty big first half. similar to his game against the Bears, and then maybe not do so much in the second half. So yeah, I like Irv Smith Jr. there as well. With Everett, he kind of came down to earth last week, right? And we still haven't had Keenan Allen since week 1. It kind of felt like he was being used as like that next option up, that next man up with Keenan out. Now we kind of saw last week that doesn't have to be the case for them to have success. So I'm just a little bit more worried, like you mentioned, the matchup. Denver allowing the 15th fewest fantasy points to the tight end position, and Miami the 11th most. So I still do have Everett ahead of him in my rankings, but I am favoring, in this comparison, an Irv Smith start here. So I definitely like it. And Miami, they're dealing with some other injuries on defense too. So there's definitely going to be some opportunity there. Any concern about the weather? I know they love to stick the opposing team in the sun.
I'm not sure what the weather's supposed to be. I don't know if it is supposed to be one of those hot Miami days. Then, I mean, that's definitely something you'd have to consider and worry about, especially, just like Buffalo, who's used to that nice, cool fall weather. Mm-hmm. Minnesota, roughly the same. So it could be an issue. I mean, personally, I hope I'm wrong because I have Gerald Everett starting on my team. He's my tight end. So, I pray to God he just pops off, and for some reason, Denver's defense just gives up 3 touchdowns to Gerald. He's the next Travis Kelsey, but I don't see that happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's coming down a little bit. So today, there's going to be some rain in Miami. Pretty normal. Tomorrow, 84 is the high, 77 the low, with only 70% humidity. So definitely a little bit more forgiving, we'll say.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
That's not too bad. All right, next up, we've got a couple of flex questions. So the first one, we've got Najee Harris versus Tampa, Devin Singletary at Kansas City, or Devonta Smith versus Dallas. Which way you going here? Last man in the lineup.
Gee whiz.
I'm going to
take Najee Harris out of here immediately.
Well, there you go.
No Najee. I get it. I get the appeal for people liking Najee, and he's had a couple of games here and there, and he has high usage. I just don't like Steelers at all. I have Deontay Johnson. He's the only Steeler I'll ever touch because there's literally nobody else who's going to catch a football over there.
And he feels like quarterback proof, right? Like it feels like he can still always get production no matter who's throwing the ball. Like he was looking really good with like Mason Rudolph at one point. You know what I mean? So
he just knows how to get open.
Exactly.
Great guy just being able to find a spot or just break his dude's ankles and get open.
Yep.
Najee just feels like a guy, especially against Tampa Bay's defense. Mm-hmm. It's going to be tough sledding for the young man.
Yep.
So I'm stuck here with Devin and Devonta Smith.
The Bills
have been getting good production out of Singletary, not just because they've been handing the ball up the middle, but because they've been doing extensions of the run game, throwing out let's screen passes outside, those quick passes, and he's been heavily involved in those kinds of plays. So if you're running a PPR kind of fantasy league, Devin's probably going to be your guy. He's been getting so much more uses, which is what Bills fans have been screaming for. We need more production out of the running backs. They've been starting to do that more and more with Devin as the season gone on. I like Devonta Smith's spot here. You don't have to worry about Diggs because you got A.J. Brown to take away some of that. So he could find potential, but it's just Smith has been so boomer bust this season.
Yep.
Because I have him on my team. It's like, great. He scored a bunch of points this week. Oh, next week? Sweet. He got me 3. That's tough to trust a guy like that with just an offense that has so many weapons. You don't know who's game planned that week. So you're just rolling the dice.
To me, it's always about, the run versus pass narrative. Like, is this going to be a week where Jalen Hurts and the running backs are the only scorers of touchdowns? Or is this a week where they're going to push the ball down the field? And it feels like each week it could go either way. Like, with Diggs out, you would assume like, oh, well, yeah, the Eagles are definitely going to take some more shots downfield. But they could get one to like A.J. Brown or Goddard and then just, run themselves out of Dallas. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels like they're always trying to set up to make the best football plays. And again, kind of similar to like Indianapolis, they're not focused on getting one guy the ball a lot. Like you'll see a week where A.J. Brown has like 8+ catches. You'll see another week where he has 2 or 3. And you're just like, what? It's A.J. Brown. Like, why are you not getting him involved more? Oh, we'll stop traffic, pal. This isn't fantasy football. We don't need to. we don't need to. We can just win.
Every single person will tell you the same thing that's involved in the NFL. We don't care about your fantasy team. We're trying to win games. It's like, why not? You should care more because I need to win.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and you could have like, the one touchdown passing wise go to like Dallas Goedert, and then you could have 2 for Hurts, 1 for Sanders, and 1 for Scott or 1 for Gainwell. Like you just cut it up however you want. I think in week 1, every one of those guys scored a touchdown. Hurts, Gainwell, Sanders and Scott. They all scored at least one. So you just don't know which way they're going to go here. I'm with you. I'm feeling like Devin Singletary has the safest floor of this group. And I also just love that matchup up against Kansas City, who has allowed now the second most fantasy points to the running back position. So it's a good spot, good usage, and you're attached to one of the best offenses in the league. Like, I feel like this one should be more simple, but when you have Najee Harris in the question and you're just like, man, like, I drafted Najee 4th overall. What do I do? Right now, you got to sit him, guys. Like, I'm sorry. Like, in these situations, like, you just have to you have to react to the real world situations that are going around you in the NFL, and you can't, dictate your starter sits based on a draft that you did, 7 or 8 weeks ago. Like, it's just, it's just not going to be sustainable. So yeah, we're both feeling Singletary there, and I like this because it seems like our heads are in the same spot here with a lot of these picks. Next one up here. Feels like this one might be a little bit tougher. See, I feel like it's an easy pick for me. But DJ Moore at Los Angeles, Juju Smith-Schuster versus Buffalo, or Zeke Elliott at Philadelphia. What you got?
And you said this was an easier pick for you.
So for me, it's easy. Easy. And that's because one of these guys is just like my guy. I don't like.
Okay. All right. I have a feeling I know who you're going to say. I'm almost tempted to say DJ Moore, because the Rams haven't looked amazing, and it's almost like that, the new head coach comes in and the team flips a switch, at least for a week. Like, you've seen it before, but it's the Panthers, so probably not. I don't like Zeke at all, almost for the same reason as Najee. It's just like, it hasn't been panning out. Zeke doesn't exist. They just need to accept that Pollard's the guy. You can put Zeke in for like short third downs or goal line situation because he's a bigger guy. Fine. But Pollard's the guy. I don't trust Zeke at all to get me points.
Yep.
So that leaves one guy. Guess we're taking Juju. I don't really love the matchup that much. I know the Buffalo secondary is still banged up a little bit. They don't get Trey White back this week. If they really focus the middle of the field and taking care of Kelsey, because I feel like you have to find someone on that offense to take care of and take out of the game. And it almost feels like you have to take Kelsey out of the game or else you're going to lose. So a lot of the linebackers like Milano and the safeties are going to be double covering Kelsey, which can leave the field open for Juju. I guess that's my pick.
I can't do it.
And
Juju has just not passed the eye test whatsoever.
Yeah,
like, he's just looked bad. And to be fair, my pick, DJ Moore, he hasn't looked very good. But the offense for the Carolina Panthers has not looked good. I have, in my belief is that they've looked better in the last 2 weeks, even with Baker being bad. Like, they reverted from using, CMC as like an every down runner to like almost an every down passing target. Okay, good job. You were able to change that, because like in week 1 or 2, you're like giving him 18 carries for 100 yards, and you're just like, you do know he's CMC, right? Like, he catches the ball. Like, that's what he does. He moves the chains. Like, he's not your guy for, a 3 and 4 yard carry, and giving him 2 out of the carries for, the first through third downs, right? Like, that's not his MO. So they were kind of making those aversions. And what you had mentioned with like, the firing of the head coach, firing of the defensive coordinator, it feels like that week where the boys are going to galvanize. They're going to have the players only meetings, get the coaches out of here. We're going to figure this out. And like you mentioned, the Rams are a great matchup. They've allowed the 4th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. We've also seen DJ Moore start to get some carries. They've started lining him up in the backfield. They're putting him and CMC back there together. So they're trying to get some creative ways to get him the ball. I have to feel like any change right now is positive. Baker was like in the QB 40 territory. There's 32 quarterbacks starting each week. Like, come on. Like, it was a bad situation. I'm not saying PJ Walker is going to be light years better, but I believe that the offense in totality will be better. Agree with you on Zeke. I have not seen a running back take this many carries and have so few fantasy points since Eddie Lacy. Like, that's my comp right now. Like, that's where I feel we're going. Like, next year.
That's painful.
Come on. I mean, tell me I'm wrong.
Don't let Zeke hear you say that.
Well, he can hear it all he wants. I hope. I mean, maybe I give him a fucking hamburger. He'll figure it out. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, and I'm not even saying like, oh, he's like overweight or he's fat. He looks bad.
He just looks
bad. I'm just going to pull it up here because.
Is it not the funniest thing in the world that they listed Dak as questionable and considered starting him maybe this week or like in the future.
It's crazy.
Cooper Rush hasn't lost a game yet. Why would you mess with that? Like,
and
I don't care who they've played.
Why not bring Dak back against Detroit, the Bears, or wait till after because they have those 2 games up next, and then they have the bye. So why rush him back for any of these games when you have a winning record? And I'm not sure if they're leading the division or tied, but you're in a very, very good position before your bye. You're playing 2 soft defenses in Detroit and Chicago right before you get a break. And when they come back from the break, they get Green Bay, Minnesota. So those feel like the games that you're going to need Dak, right? Like on the road, playing 2 tough teams in the conference. Like I feel like that's the spot for him. But back to Zeke a little bit here. So week 1, 10 for 52, less than 3.5 fantasy points. Week 2, 15 carries for 53 rushing yards, less than 3.5 fantasy points. Week 3, 15 for 73, did get a touchdown. He fell in the end zone, 10.75. The following week, 19 for 49.
Oh God.
Less than 7 fantasy points. This one's a real kick in the dick here. Real kick in the dick. 22 attempts last week for 78 yards, less than 4 fantasy points. Like he puts one ball on the ground.
You need to stop playing.
Yeah, that's the point we're trying to make here. That's the point we're trying to make here. Like it's over, guys. It's Tony Pollard season.
Yeah, and then Tony Pollard has 5 carries for like 97 yards and a touchdown.
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly. Yeah, much more versatile threat. All right, we're going to hit a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back after this. If you watch football, you need Fubo TV. Fubo TV gives you the complete coverage of college and pro football with NFL Red Zone, plus games in 4K at no extra charge. Over 100 channels of live sports and entertainment for only a fraction of the price of cable. Watch on all your devices and never miss a game or an episode of your favorite shows with the included cloud-based DVR. Plus, there's no contract, no commitment, and you can cancel at any time. Right now, you can try Fubo TV for free for 7 days and get 15% off your first month. Just go to FuboTV.com/SGP. That's FuboTV.com/SGP. And Dylan, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Odds Trader, but it's a place where you can compare odds from all major sports books. You can also compare the different sign-up codes and promotions from sports books to get the best deal possible. The app also provides player statistics, key game stats, injury reports, and projected game day weather for bettors to make the most informed bets possible. It also has a bet tracker so that bettors can keep records of all their games and betting activity. Go to oddstrader.com/Blue Wire. Odds Trader, it's the #1 site for all of your game day bets. All right, and we're back in. We're rolling here. We're going to start with some trade grades. We're going to pick our side and, just kind of give our take, like if, we're going to let this trade fly in our league. I'm pretty much anti-veto, but you never know. Sometimes you can't let, just people pick on the bottom scraping teams to give themselves an advantage. First up here, we've got side A. We've got Kareem Hunt plus Joe Mixon. For side B, JJ Justin Jefferson. I don't know if I can do that one.
Oh, boy.
I'm holding JJ there.
It's tough to let up JJ, especially for Kareem Hunt, who has seen it. You can't say like, well, he's option 2 in that offense, or splits carries, because you've seen him pop off for games. Like I own Nick Chubb, and I'm sitting here like, oh my God, why did Kareem Hunt get that touchdown carry? Why didn't Nick have it? Like it happens.
Right.
And Joe Mixon too. I mean, the injury possibility with him, he has been a solid option. Like, I guess it just depends on the scenario. Like apparently side B needs running backs. He's desperate. So I'm going to give you Justin Jefferson. I have to see the rest of the roster for this one. I almost think it's fair, but man, giving up Justin Jefferson would be hard. I wouldn't veto it. That's for sure. Like this is fine. Personally, I would rather keep Justin Jefferson on my team. So if I'm side A, this is good for me. If I'm side B, why would I be doing this?
Kareem Hunt actually has more fantasy points than Joe Mixon in one of my leagues, 48.5 to Mixon's 48.4. So they're both in running back 2 territory right now, as it were. So you're trading essentially 2 RB2s for like the wide receiver 1. I still don't think that it matches up. I mean, like you had mentioned, like, if you have the roster utility to give up those 2 running backs, like if you're still stacked and you can pull that off, absolutely. Like I want the JJ side of it. So I either want to hold or I want to give up those 2 running backs for him. So I would be fine with it. I agree with you. It's not one that's necessarily worthy of vetoing, but I would want the JJ side of this. Just the consistent floor that you're going to get, just much safer in my opinion. And if those guys are the running backs that you're willing to give up, you probably have, a Josh Jacobs, a Jamal Williams, maybe a Breece Hall, or even a Dameon Pierce to kind of back that up, to kind of back up those losses.
Right.
So as long as you're in that type of position, I'd be good with it. But again, still want the JJ side of this. Next one up we have is side A. This is a big swap here. We got Raheem Mostert plus Marquise Brown plus Eno Benjamin. For side B, Alvin Kamara, who's been, we'll say, pretty disappointing so far. Is this enough to get Kamara?
I think side B is almost like kind of getting a steal here, because if you're literally doing this trade right now, this week, it's strictly because you're trying to get the most bang for your buck after he had a good game against Seattle's defense. Right. Like he's been, like you said, he's been disappointing all season, then has a big game against Seattle, who's just, their defense is just, oh God, so bad. So it's like, oh, look at his potential. This is what Alvin can do. I'm going to need a lot from you. So give me Eno, who's about to play Seattle's defense. Right. Then you get Marquise Brown, who is about to play Seattle's defense. And Raheem Mostert, who's I guess it's not a great pickup, but, Miami, he's been okay. I don't know what his actual numbers are, but he's got a couple of people to compete with in that backfield. I think side B is getting a steal here. I know Alvin looks appealing, and you're going to give up a lot for him. I would rather be on side. I'm not going to veto it again. Like, personally, like, I think you said pretty much the same thing. I think vetoes only exist so people aren't trying to take advantage of a new guy, or someone's just like, I'm done playing, so I'm going to give you all my best players. Like, they gave him $100 for their team,
Right.
Or that's the kind of stuff we're trying to avoid.
If there's players included in the trade that deserve to be dropped, like if they're droppable, like if the other team is going to get this player and then instantly drop them, that's veto worthy in my opinion.
Yeah. So this is not, I'm not vetoing this. I think it's roughly fair. But I would rather be side B, getting those players and giving up Alvin. I'm definitely okay with not having him so far in this season.
Right. So I still want side B. I still want Alvin Kamara. To me, these other pieces in Mostert, Brown, and Benjamin, this would be a great swap. Like, if you could make this deal and steal Alvin Kamara like this, I feel like it's a great move, because like you had mentioned with Mostert, there's still mouths to feed there. We don't know what's going to happen with their offense. He's looked good as their running back in the last couple of weeks, but that really feels like it could change any moment. And he's also a little bit banged up right now. Marquise Brown, been great, but this is the last week that you have to really get the A1 usage out of him, because DeAndre Hopkins comes back next week. And Eno Benjamin, well, he's a nice piece to have, a nice little stash on your bench. Darrell Williams and James Conner are both out this week. And the James Conner injury, though he is an injury-ridden running back, that's all of his history holds for him. It doesn't sound like it's a very serious injury. It's a rib injury. He landed on the ball weird. He had the ball tucked under his rib, and it seems like he just has bruised ribs, and that he will be back soon. So 1 week of A1 Marquise Brown, 1 week of Eno Benjamin, and the uncertainty of Mostert, it's just not enough for me. I feel like it's a nice sell high opportunity for the 3 in side A, and it's a great buy low opportunity for side B and Alvin Kamara, because he's only done so much. And if anything, the Seattle game was just kind of an indicator, hey, he can still be good. So the only player that you probably drafted from side A is Marquise Brown. You probably picked up Mostert and Eno Benjamin off of the waiver wire. You know what I mean? So for that, I would still hold true to Alvin Kamara, buying the history, buying the draft capital. Not something that you always want to do, but I feel like he still holds the most trust here. I feel like those candidates on side A are great sell candidates, because, again, they all have good things going for them right now in week 6. I feel like those narratives are going to shift 7, 8, and 9, as those weeks come on here.
I don't disagree.
Right, next one up we've got is straight up Jeff Wilson Jr. for Garrett Wilson. Wilson on Wilson action here. Which one you going?
Little Wilson on Wilson. Ooh.
That's a tough one.
It is, because Garrett's been coming on. He's getting there. He's got the QB back. His guy is now playing with him. They're going to build rapport. Jeff Wilson has been popping off. He's been getting all the attention for San Francisco now. This is a very even trade of guys are just like, you know, I need a running back. Well, I need a wide receiver. All right, here we go. Let's make a deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's a winner. I think this is a wide receiver kind of year. I in both of my drafts, I drafted wide receiver heavy early and often. I didn't go no running back, but I did go heavy on wide receivers early.
Sure.
So I'm gonna take Garrett and trust the process in New York, and just hope that he just becomes the guy that Zach Wilson just absolutely loves, and he gets 10 targets a game. At least give him the opportunity to catch a billion balls.
Yeah, well, they might need Joe Flacco in the lineup for that to happen because when Flacco was in there, he was getting the double-digit targets, and now Wilson back has me a little bit more concerned. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is with Zach Wilson, but him and Braxton Berrios, like they are like this. They're like Justin Fields and Darnell Mooney, or if you want to get a little bit closer to home, they're like Joe Flacco and Ty Conklin. Like I don't know what it is with these quarterbacks and their guys. You know what I mean? Like if it's just the dudes that they're playing catch with on the sidelines, but it seems like every time Zach Wilson's in the game, Braxton Berrios is getting some, random touchdown target, random usage, with some end around reverse action or something crazy to trick the defenses. That wasn't happening when Flacco was in the lineup. I don't know what it is. I don't know what type of audibles Wilson's calling, but it's nothing that's been too favorable to Garrett Wilson so far. He has, oh, darn it, I just lost it. I was going to say he has less than double-digit targets for sure since Zach being back. So he has 10 in the last 2 weeks with Wilson being back. And in weeks 2 and 3, he had 25 total with Joe Flacco. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand what it is. If I was seeing those types of productions and stats with Zach, I would be all in. But that was good that you still took Garrett because I feel like it is pretty close, and we'll get to kind of give good takes for both sides. I think Jeff Wilson just has a very, very safe floor until Elijah Mitchell comes back. That's the caveat, right? Is when Mitchell comes back, it probably will be more of a tandem than overloading Mitchell with volume because he is coming back from another injury. He has been good when returning from injuries. He did that last season. But Wilson's floor has just been so safe. He's got 4 weeks in a row with 75 plus rushing touchdowns. He's got rushing yards, excuse me. He's got back-to-back weeks with at least one rushing touchdown. And the focal point of the 49ers offense, run, protect Jimmy or whoever their quarterback's going to be. So I'm going Wilson there, but I agree with you. It is more of a coin flip. If you need a receiver, Wilson's a great target in a redraft format like this to get a nice swap. And if you have Wilson, you probably have other better running backs. So you can probably afford to give up that depth piece, maybe you need just a wide receiver this week with buys and injuries. I'm probably going to be, or I am out of Michael Thomas this week. No DJ Shark. Keenan Allen is questionable. He probably won't play. That's all on one team. That's just one roster, right? Like I'm sure there's plenty of people with issues like that. All right, last one up here. This one's I might even be tougher. Mark Andrews straight up for Leonard Fournette. I've been banging the Lenny drum all offseason, but I've also been banging the Mark Andrews, trumpet since, God knows when. So both of these guys are very high on my priority list in the offseason and weekly drafts. Been loving both of them. What do you think here?
I look at this, and this is this is the closest one of these trades. Mm-hmm. If I had to veto any of the trades that we've talked about, it would be
top five player for top five player at their position. No way.
Like Mark Andrews is just it's Mark Andrews and Travis Kelsey fantasy owners are like, all right, cool. I'm going to score a bunch of points this week. And then everyone else with whatever tight end they have are like, cool. They scored 5 points this week. Great. Like my tight end popped off.
Victory.
It's like, well, you can find Leonard Fournette throughout the season. Mm-hmm. If you really play waiver wires or you do safer trades where you don't have to give up freaking Mark Andrews, you can skirt by without a Leonard Fournette. You cannot skirt by with getting rid of Mark Andrews. Now you have to go to the waiver wire and you're playing Will Dissly. All right. This is bad. If you're the guy who is getting Leonard Fournette for Mark Andrews, if you're side A, buddy, like you're gonna get fleeced here, and I'm gonna feel bad for you because when you do have to go get a new tight end off the waiver wire, whoever your backup is, you're gonna in like 1 or 2 weeks you'll be like, man, why did I do that?
You definitely need another tight end on your roster. So, for example, in one of my leagues, I am starting that league I just referenced, actually, with the Shark and Mike Thomas and Keenan Allen. I got to start Mark Andrews and Tyler Higbee. I have to. You know what I mean? Like, that's just where I'm at. If you had a Tyler Higbee, I might be okay with it. If you had a Zach Ertz, again, probably okay. But you have to have like that. You have to have like a stack of tight ends that you really trust. So, and then that's very few. That is very few pairings. So I'm talking Mark Andrews, and I guess if you somehow drafted Mark Andrews and Travis Kelsey, it's not unheard of, but very rare. I've seen it. I believe I saw it in the Scott Fish Bowl, actually.
Man, that would actually be pretty solid if you did do that somehow. Your tight end and your flex being Mark Andrews and Travis Kelsey. That's actually pretty solid.
This would be the year for it, for sure, for certain, because the tight end volatility this season just feels like it's in like a full swing is an understatement, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, the aggravation mode is at like, if it's a ranking out of 10, it's at 15. You know what I mean? Like, it's just been absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, if you had those guys somehow, okay, cool, do the trade. But Mark Andrews and say Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews and Zach Ertz. I don't even think I could do it with Higbee, because I just don't like. I don't know if that's sustainable. I have to imagine that they get better, whether Allen Robinson takes a step forward, whether they bring back Odell. Like, I just cannot see Higbee's production being, what it's been through the first 5 weeks throughout the entire season. That seems more risky. But can you name me another pairing of tight ends where you just be like, oh yeah, I'm good. Go ahead, give him Andrews.
Yeah, I mean,
even Zach Ertz, I mentioned, he's going to get that bump down from Hopkins coming back too. Like, you got to keep that in mind.
Like, if you have him for this week, great, playing Seattle. Like, you might have 1 week of solid production, because Seattle just, I don't know where Seattle ranks allowing tight end points, but it's got to be just absolutely enormous.
They're bad.
They're very bad. Yeah, I don't know who you have to where you feel comfortable letting Mark Andrews walk.
I don't even know if Hawkinson would fit the bill. Like, if I had Hawkinson and Andrews, I don't know if I would trust that still.
Because I'd say mainly because of his injury history. That guy can go down in the blink of an eye.
What about this one? Because this is a guy that I've been loving, and his draft capital was super faded. David Njoku, like, he feels like he's a safe tight end right now.
That's interesting, because I know he went off for a week. I'm not sure where he's gone since then. Do you have his point by points for the season?
Yeah, so the week 1 was the worst week. He went 1 for 1 with 1 for 1, 7 yards. Terrible. Complete like mold of what tight ends have been this year. But since then, 3 for 5 in week 2, 32 receiving yards. In week 3, 9 for 10, 89 and a tutty.
That was the
week 4, 5 for 7, 73 yards. Week 5, 6 for 6, 88. Like, the last 3 weeks have been very solid.
Yeah.
Even week 2, like, you'll take that, because, like you said, like, it's not a goose egg. Pretty much that's what you're trying to do right now. Is avoid grabbing a tight end that's going to give you 0.
Yeah. I mean, I'm riding with Gerald Everett right now. What am I on? And I think I got Kittle in another. And Kittle has just been like, where's he been? I know he's injured for a little while, but even in his return, he's been non-existent.
Just that passing offense is not there. And I mean, like, I'm not going to pick on Jimmy. I'm a Jimmy truther. I'm a Jimmy G stan. We graduated in the same class at EIU together. So, like, I was watching Jimmy, throw the pigskin around, a little bit while before the random Jimmy G stands. So I'm a big fan of his, but at the same time, like, I don't dog him too much because of the fact that he wasn't with the team in the preseason. Like, they were doing new things still. He was practicing on a field by himself. Like, he wasn't with the team. Now you throw him in there to be the guy with literally 1 week of preseason practice with his team. Like, it's going to take a minute, you know what I mean, to really get all the kinks out. And they still looked good in my opinion, right? So, Kittle has not been great. Haven't loved that offense. He would not be someone that I would trust in that pairing. So, yeah, for me, I would be leaning Mark Andrews just because of the scarcity of the position. It's just that simple. You will find other guys that are viable at the running back position, whether it be waivers, whether it be injuries, or just, the shifting of the tides, right? Like, I know it's not popular, but in a lot of leagues this week, you are still able to go out and get Kenneth Walker. 55%, ownership rating, I believe, on Yahoo coming into week 6, previous to waivers. He's got.
I had to trade for him, but I have him in one of my leagues. What do you think about that
exactly.
trade?
Like you could make a move for a guy like that, or spend a lot of fob if available, or whatever it is. Like there are going to be moments to pivot off of those. I don't want to ride out Cade Otton. You know what I mean? Like he was a big ad this week. Everyone was very excited about him because of his performance. He's a young tight end. It's Tom Brady. There's a lot to be excited about there. I'm not going to overbuy, into that with 1 week. You know what I mean? So there's going to be other moves that you can make at running back that are probably going to be a little bit more viable than giving up one of two 1A options at the tight end position. Couldn't do it.
Do you think I fleeced the guy?
I'm a big Lenny fan, so that's tough for me.
I got Kenneth Walker Jr. the third for Antonio Gibson and Garrett Wilson.
I think he believes or he likes to go by Ken, sir. He's more of a Ken guy. He doesn't like
Kenneth Walker Jr. the third is exactly how I will refer to my running back, whether he likes it or not. But
who was the other guy that did that recently that came out and was like, "Oh, this is how you say my name"?
Oh, that was probably Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Tyrod.
Oh, Tyrod Taylor too?
Yeah, it's not Tyrod, it's Tyrod.
Tyrod. And then there's the guy who changed his name. Shaq Leonard.
Yeah. Instead of Shaquille Leonard, it's Shaq Leonard.
Yep.
I don't mind it. I like that. I mean, he seems like a Shaq, right? I mean, he should fucking play one of these days. He should play one of these days, that bastard. We were talking about tight ends. I was about to reference Everett. The one team that I have Everett on, I have Everett and Austin Hooper. Those are my only tight ends.
Oh no.
No,
what happened to Austin, man? Holy baloney.
It's been great. Well, he doesn't play for Atlanta anymore.
That's one positive.
Well, I mean, it wasn't, because that's where he made his money.
That's
you know what I mean? Like that's what got him paid. Was then he went to Cleveland, made a bunch of money, didn't get used. Now he's in Tennessee making a respectable amount of money, not getting used. Yeah, mid-tier cash, but he's getting paid like he's a millionaire, but not getting used. All right, last segment here. We're going to be hitting on some over-under picks for fantasy point totals. These are numbers straight from Underdog. So if you like our stacks here, our run of picks, be sure to go lock them into your lineups and make some money. First up, we got Kirk Cousins. We peeped him a little bit earlier, going down to Miami. Seems like the weather's not going to be too bad there. Humidity is going to be about 70%, not going to be overkill. We're looking at 19.15 fantasy points. Over-under. What do we got?
I'm going over.
I
feel like this is the game, because the other one on here I was looking at was his 34.5 passing attempts.
That's a lot. That's a big number.
I would definitely go lower than the pass attempts, but over on the fantasy points, because I see explosive plays coming. I just think this is, even if Tua plays or anyone plays, I think it could go both ways. Tua is not. So just to put this out there, Tua is not playing. Okay.
He has cleared concussion protocol, but 2, he has been ruled inactive. Teddy Bridgewater has cleared concussion protocol. He is active, and he is the designated backup quarterback to Skylar Thompson.
Okay. So that's good to know. So there might not be as much back and forth knowing who the quarterbacks are for Miami. I just think there's so much potential here for big plays.
Yep.
For Minnesota, Adam Thielen or Justin Jefferson. Even in the running game, you could get Dalvin Cook to do something special. I think 25 pass attempts would be enough to get Kirk Cousins into like 30-point territory. That's just what I see happening. I think it'll be crazy.
I think that he has the potential to pass for 3 touchdowns, and that's just is enough for me. Not even taking into consideration the yards. I think you get at least one big one to JJ. I think this is an Adam Thielen touchdown type of week. I like taking him for an anytime touchdown prop this week. And we had already discussed Irv Smith in the running game. So I feel like he could easily have 2 passing touchdowns by the half, gets a garbage time one to end it, and that's just enough for me. The yard should be there. I like him easily to clear 250. He's at 258 here on Underdog, so that should be another very easy number. 3.5 rushing yards. I'll take that too. I don't know where.
You never know. Just one good scramble, and he's the kind of quarterback that will fight for the extra yard. He's not going to just run out of bounds. He'll do the little dive or something cool to get that over 3.5.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, some really good numbers there for Cousins this week.
Got some dog in him.
Next up is J.K. Dobbins for the Baltimore Ravens. They are traveling to the Giants this week. I think it's a friendlier matchup, but the Giants have been kind of like a low-key, solid defense here. His number's at 9.75. I like this over as well. I'm really not too scared of it, even with like his moderate production so far.
Yeah, 9.5 seems low.
Right?
Like, I know the Giants have been sneaky good defense. Brian Dable has found a way to kind of turn that team around just instantly. I mean, what are they, 4-1? It's asinine. I don't know. It's just 9.5 seems too low. It might be around that territory, maybe like 11, 12 points at the lowest. So I'm going to take the over just because I don't know. I just look at that and think, why? I mean, J.K. Dobbins has been the guy. He's been doing great as of late.
If we look at his rushing total, his total on underdog is at 44.5. That's exactly what he's pretty much done the last 2 weeks. 8 for 44 against Cincinnati, 13 for 41 and a touchdown up against Buffalo. I like this matchup better than both of those previous games.
Yeah.
And this is a big test still for the Giants as well. Like, yeah, they've been good, but I know they beat the Bears. I know, did they beat the Cowboys, or is that their one loss?
No, because Cooper Rush is still undefeated.
Yeah, so that's got to be their one loss then. So yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a big test for them, and Lamar in the running game, I think, will just be a little bit too much. I also like his rushing and receiving yards at 54. If his rushing total is at 44, like, I feel like that's enough for me.
A 10 extra receiving yards, that should be fine.
Yeah, and they're just getting him, kind of ramped up, right? Like, this is only going to be his fourth game played. He sat out the first couple of weeks, so I feel like this is a good spot to kind of like build his confidence. Like, it could be a big week for him. And I also have Lamar for reference as the number one quarterback this week. That's over Josh Allen. That's over Patty Mahomes. So I'm really expecting a lot from Baltimore this week.
I'm glad to hear that because my fantasy team needs a little boost.
Yeah, Lamar's taken a little bit of a dip the past couple of weeks. I mean, he would like the first 3 weeks he had 12 touchdowns in 3 games or something.
We all knew that wasn't sustainable.
Right. It's got to lull a little bit, but when you get a matchup like this after those couple of lull weeks, like, you got to feel it, right? Like, you got to feel like it could be a big spot for Lamar in that offense. All right, we got 2 more picks left here, and then we're going to head out and go enjoy our Saturdays. Been a long one and a good one. Thank you for coming on. We've got Mr. Tyler Lockett. He's at 14.15. I feel like it's still a bit higher than I'd want to attack him at. If he was at like 10, 11, I would kind of feel the over here. But I'm going to take the under. I feel like Geno could have a day. Kenneth could have a day. DK, like, it feels like it could really go anywhere. We've seen Will Disley steal some touchdowns as well. I'm going to say the under just by a hair, just barely under 14.15.
This feels like recency bias,
right?
Last week's game is definitely affecting this over under right now.
1,000% agree.
And I don't. Plus, I heard a little bit of a thing with Tyler Lockett having some hamstring issues this week. It's nothing that'll hold him out. It did limit him in practice a little bit, so he's just kind of nursing it. Right. I don't know if that's going to affect his play, but it's something to keep an eye on. And then just Seahawks wide receivers don't have back-to-back amazing weeks. It never happens. They always change the gameplay up where it's like, oh, all right, Tyler had his turn. All right, DK, let's go. Or like, all right, here's going to be a tight end week. Or running backs, we're going to run heavy this week, something like that. That's just how it's always gone. So yeah, I'm going under here. I would probably go under 10 if I had the ability to like bet how many
alt line
fantasy points ago. Yeah, the alt line. I go like under 10. That's where I'd be sitting.
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely recency bias. And actually, his target share has gone down since weeks 2 and 3. Weeks 2 and 3, he had 11 targets. Week 4, he had 8. And then the following week, last week, he had 6. Obviously, 2 touchdowns. Very, very nice. Yeah, but I agree with you. He doesn't have back-to-back games of this level of production just yet. So I would stay off, and I agree with you. 1,000% recency bias, hands down. Last one up. Probably the toughest pick of the day. Travis Kelsey. Over 14.75. He was held in check last week. 25 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. Held in check is kind of a variable term, I guess.
Yeah, you just leave out the touchdown part. 7 catches, 25 yards. Held in check. Easy peasy. Don't mention the 4 touchdowns. That's fine. Don't bring that up.
Don't bring that up. I gotta imagine he finds pay dirt. Like, just at least one.
Yeah.
And I feel like that'll be enough with 6 to 10 catches.
like I think I brought up earlier, the Bills learned their lesson. I'd like to think in that game last in the divisional round there.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna put Milano on him. They're probably gonna have a safety doubling over the top.
Is Poyer going to be healthy this week?
Who?
Jordan Poyer?
I don't know where he's sitting right now.
He has an interception, I know, in every start thus far. I mean, he's missed a game. I think he's missed at least one game, but he has an interception in every start so far.
And I mean, it's a pass-happy offense when they play the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
So if he does play, he'll have plenty of balls to try and get his hands on. Plus, especially if he wants to try and undercut Travis Kelsey.
Right.
I feel like they're going to game plan for Kelsey. I do think he finds the end zone.
Can you?
I just don't know how many targets. Are they really going to try and force him the ball if he's double covered? Because I know they're going to. You're going to have to get the ball to Juju. You're going to have to get the ball somewhere else.
I like MVS this week, to be honest. He's been getting very consistent targets, but some weeks the deep passing game for the Kansas City Chiefs has just been taken away.
Yeah,
you know, that game up against the Colts. I think there was it the Bengals that they played? There was a couple of weeks where I felt like good about MVS, and then I'm watching the game and I'm just seeing like the deep ball is not there. Check downs to the tight ends, not just Kelsey. Jody, Fortson, Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, Mecole Hardman, like the roster clogger guys are just, helping move the chains, and Mahomes is being Mahomes,
That's why I feel like the Chiefs have been better this season. I think that's why the Chiefs are better without Tyreek. They're not trying to force them the ball 80 yards downfield. They're just
right.
Now they're playing a real NFL offense. They're like, yeah, let's get everyone involved. No one's going to know where the ball's going. Short passes, different routes, confuse people, movement in the backfield, and they've been great.
It was the Colts and the Chargers. That's who it was. Not Cincinnati. So yeah, those weeks he only had 3 passing touchdowns for an interception. Oh, crazy! It sounds so terrible, right? The following week he put up 3 for 1, the exact same total from the previous weeks, and then last week he put up 4 passing touchdowns. I feel like it's kind of like that 2 touchdown game, kind of something similar to the Chargers. I'm not sure what Kelsey did in that game, but I don't know. It's tough for me to say no to Kelsey totals just because he is, the biggest focal point of that offense. Like you said, they will throw to him in double coverage. I mean, I like Matt Milano in theory. I would love to have him on my team, the Bears. I feel like we're missing, a solid linebacker there alongside Roquan Smith. Not to disrespect Nick Morrow, but come on, Nick Morrow, you're not, you're not Lance Briggs, pal. Like that's not happening, So I would like him, but in theory, I feel like Kelsey is going to be able to match up well up against even double coverage against Buffalo. Jordan Poyer's there healthy, I'll definitely feel less confident about it, but Kelsey's just a sit it and forget it guy, just like you're good to go. I'm going to take his over.
I could easily eat crow on this one, but I'm going to take the under. I just think the Bills are going to game plan around him so hard that if they're like, yeah, if we lose to MVS, great, fine. We lose to MVS or we lose to Clyde, we lose to McKinnon. They're not going to lose to Kelsey.
Fair enough. Hey, that's what I was feeling like last week until Kelsey wouldn't stop scoring touchdowns. Because it's like, yeah, you know what? You can stop him, between, the 0 to 20 yard mark, but inside the 20, like, y'all are screwed. Like, good luck. Double what? Double touchdowns. All right. Again, been a very good show. Appreciate you coming on. We've got Guts50 in the chat here. We're going to answer a question and then head out for the day. Would you trade Nick Chubb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared Goff for, Jalen Hurts, Alvin Kamara, and Stephon Diggs? St. Brown, Nick Chubb. I don't know. I think I hold. I like Hurts. I like Diggs. But I feel like what you're getting out of Chubb and Amon-Ra is just enough for me. Jared Goff had a bad week up against the Patriots, but I mean, he's been a top 5 quarterback fantasy-wise. Obviously he's not someone you're trying to start your franchise with, but for fantasy, he's been very, very good. And I feel like the Lions game narratives are going to be great for fantasy throughout the entire season. Their defense is god awful. There's going to be a lot of weeks where I feel Goff outscores Hurts still.
Yeah, I feel like this trade is being made right now, like someone's thinking about it because of the bad week.
And yeah, in 14-man PPR, like this is a big trade.
Yeah.
You know, like the roster scarcity is much more significant in a league that deep. So I think I hold. I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think that's kind of an overreaction. You're overreacting to the Alvin Kamara, his success. You're overreacting to the lack of success from Goff. Maybe even the same of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, guys, don't be fading Amon-Ra. Like Bill Belichick, what he does is he attacks your best target on your offense. Running back, wide receiver, tight end, whatever it is. And his entire plan for that week is to remove that player from your tool set. Like that's his job, right? And he does it very well. It's gone as far back as tight ends like Jimmy Graham and Mark Andrews to elite running backs like Alvin Kamara, who you have in this trade, Dalvin Cook, even Adrian Peterson. Like that's what they do. That's an overreaction dumping him. And Nick Chubb is a top 3 running back in the league. So getting rid of him is just, I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
I mean, I like Jalen Hurts. I like Diggs. I mean, like, even in the Bills offense, Diggs hasn't been getting his fair share, but you got Gabe Davis there still, who's taking a lot of targets away.
They've got everybody
getting more involved.
Khalil Shakur, Isaiah McKenzie, yeah. Like everyone's getting the love. I
would hold tight. I know you had a bad week with St. Brown and Goff, but just it'll come back. You'll be okay. You
get a wag of the finger here for wanting to sell Chubb, my guy. That's a wag of the finger.
No.
But the thank you, we give you a tip of the cap. That's some old school Stephen Colbert stuff. Wag of the finger, tip of the cap. American hero, Stephen Colbert.
I miss him and
Jon Stewart.
John on Comedy Central there.
The good times. Good
old days.
I think like Tosh.0 is still on. Like, and you know, like Tosh.0, like the first like season or two was a fun thing. And then
yeah, it's like the same thing with that and like ridiculousness. Like okay, it was fun for a while. Like the shtick is up. Let's move on.
No, I was never into ridiculous. I liked Robin Big, which is like, you know, like where that all trended to. Robin Big was fun. That was funny when it was like, you know, in it. Then it was over. You know, is what it is. All right, good stuff. Yeah, nothing else to close in on that trade. I think we wrapped it up here. Dylan, let everybody know where they can find you, what you're working on. Give them the good stuff.
Well, we're just started fresh with Durf and Dylan. You know, we've always been Durf and Dylan when we were doing on and off the field, but we decided to change up the handle. Now we are just straight up Durf and Dylan. Currently, we've been doing the Fans of the Week podcast, the Seattle Seahawks Buffalo Bills Center podcast. I'm a Seahawks fan. He's a Bills fan. So we have a lot of fun just being able to like talk about our teams and get in depth and do that. We're going to do some more stuff in the future. Thinking about doing some golf stuff coming because we live in New York. So, I mean, it's hard to do golf stuff right now, but we're going to be planning on some stuff for next year. Right. A lot of fun projects here for Durf and Dylan.
Awesome. Love it. Appreciate you coming on, sir. All right. Someone offered me this trade too. Nick Chubb, Mike Boone, John Dotson, Josh Jacobs, Dalvin Cook, and D-Hop. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, what is that? Who we talking about here? Who's
someone
getting
offered me this trade
where?
too. Nick Chubb, John Dotson. Yeah, we don't know who's for who, pal. We don't know who's for who.
I mean, I assume you have Nick Chubb.
He does.
If we split this 3-3, Nick Chubb, Mike Boone, and Jahan Dotson for Josh Jacobs, Dalvin Cooks, and D-Hop.
So I'll tell you who I like in this trade, and that's Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, and Dalvin Cook, and D-Hop, of course. Okay, I get Josh Jacobs and Falcon. Who the fuck is Falcon?
It's Dalvin.
Yeah,
so okay, yeah. So we split it in half there. So yeah.
Okay.
Josh Jacobs, Dalvin Cooks, D-Hop for Nick Chubb, Mike Boone, Jahan Dotson.
Okay, sorry. Josh Jacobs, Dalvin, and D-Hop.
I like this one more than the other.
Yeah, I do too. Josh Jacobs has been great. Dalvin Cook, always good. D-Hop coming back is a great buy low opportunity because you have no idea what you're getting out of him yet. Yeah, I would do that one. I would be okay with that.
It sucks to give up Nick Chubb, but the fact that you're getting rid of Mike Boone, who was no one, and Jahan Dotson, who's on Washington.
Yeah.
And you get to replace him with D-Hop, and you replace Mike Boone with Dalvin Cooks. And, like, you're not going to get the exact same value with Josh Jacobs for Nick Chubb, but you make up that value with the other two.
Yeah, no, I mean, Josh Jacobs right now is an RB1. He's a top 5 running back as far as fantasy totals go. Dalvin Cook has, I don't know where he's exactly falling in line, but he has that potential, same as Nick Chubb, which is what you're getting. Because like he said, like this guy is saying that he wants to sell Nick Chubb. Okay, Obviously, I gave you the wag of the finger, but it's your team. You do whatever you want with it, right? So if you're going to get rid of Nick Chubb, Jacobs and Cooks is a good swap. Like if that was the only part of the trade, I would feel really good about it. But you're also adding on D-Hop and you're getting rid of your bench trash. So like I feel very good about it. That would be a trade I'm agreeing with.
Yeah.
That would be one I would agree with.
Yeah, I agree. That's good.
All right. Guts50, appreciate you riding with us in the chat. Appreciate everyone at home downloading, listening. Be sure to leave us a review. We got the good stuff for you. Today, folks, is the last day that you can enter the DeAndre Swift free jersey giveaway. So comment on this video, follow the channel, and let us, or then DM us those completed tasks on Twitter at SGPN Fantasy, and you are in. We are doing that raffle tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern for the kickoff of Week 6, and then we're running it back. We'll have another jersey giveaway after that too. And on top of that, we're also giving away $50 to the merch store at SGPN. One more time, Dylan, let them know where they can find you.
Ooh, at Durfin Dylan. Pretty much any social media platform that you use, especially Twitter, Fans of the Week, any podcasting platform you want, and YouTube.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can find me on Twitter at SGPNJB. You can find the SGPN Fantasy Group for football at SGPN Fantasy on Twitter. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com, smash the fantasy tab. We've got all the good stuff for you. IDP, Dynasty, Redraft, trade charts, trade value charts, I should say. So you can, get the best, swap analysis that you need throughout the season. Waivers, FOB, we've got it all. Come and ride with us. Take care, be well, be good. And if you can't be good at it. We'll see you.